In the name of our loving and present God. So here we are in the Gospel of Mark, and Jesus is just called, immediately prior to this passage, Jesus is just called and named the 12 disciples whom he also called apostles. So we are early in the ministry of Jesus in the Gospel of Mark. And here he is at home. And where is Jesus' home in the Gospel of Mark? Anybody? You know the answer to this question. Where is his home? That's a good start, but it's not where it is. His home is considered to be in Capernaum. Capernaum. So they're back in Capernaum. See, now you're all going, the other end, the one over in, yes, in the western side, by the sea. So he's at home, and gathered around him are all the people, because Jesus at this time was gathering in his reputation across that part of the world. And in the course of his gathering and reputation, he collected some folks that were not necessarily there to support him. And who would they be? That's in your scripture. Who were the people that were gathered there in the crowd that would have not necessarily been on Jesus' side? The scribes that have come down from Jerusalem. And why do you suppose they are coming down to from Jerusalem to see this fellow Jesus? Why do you suppose that the people who are associated with the temple in Jerusalem, why do you suppose they're sending their, I'm going to go ahead and call them spies, down to Galilee to be with, or to observe what's going on around Jesus?
Entrapment.
Beg your pardon?
Entrapment.
It's a kind of a gathering evidence issue, yes. It's a gathering evidence against this person, Jesus, who is espousing a different set or a different understanding of the relationship of humankind with God. And he is placing at risk the power structure in the temple in Jerusalem. And he's placing that power structure at risk because of something pretty substantial. And that is that Jesus says you don't need, or one does not need, or one does not require in any way, shape, or form any kind of an intermediary between the individual and God. Don't need a priest to sacrifice your pigeons for you up at the temple. You don't need a leader of the local synagogue. You don't need anyone to get between you and God. This is a new way of looking at things. A new way of looking at things. We may not have had that clearly said yet in the Gospel of Mark, but we certainly have it coming. And it's a part and parcel to what this is all about. Now, here's something that struck me, and I tried to get a rise out of the clergy gathering we had on Tuesday. I tried to get a rise out of them when I said, okay, whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit can never have forgiveness, but is guilty of eternal sin. If you blaspheme the Spirit, you can never. Never is a long time. Eternal is a long time. And how many of you have been aware in our understanding, your understanding of our relationship with Jesus and with God, that there is such a thing as an unforgivable sin? I don't operate in that particular way of thinking. I don't operate in that particular understanding. And one of the things that I like to do once in a while is pull a particular chain, if I can find one to pull. And the chain that I pulled last Tuesday with the clergy was, I said, well, what does that mean with regards to the sacrifice that Jesus made on the cross? If there can be an unforgivable sin, then what was the point of the exercise of Jesus going to the cross, giving up himself for the sacrifice, etc., etc.? What does that mean, and how does that reflect? on the nature of humankind and the relationship between humankind and God. That's a challenge, my brothers and sisters. It's a challenge. And my understanding of this is that this is directed to very specific issues that were going on. Very specific issues. This particular statement is directed to a group of people. I'm going to ask you again, who do you think the group of people are that that's directed towards? Somebody say? The scribes, the Pharisees, and the people who are saying that this person is here because he is espousing magic. Jesus is doing magic tricks. He's not doing anything that is related to the Spirit. He is performing these healings because Satan is the reason, is the force behind it. Satan is the one that is standing with him as he's stirring the cauldron. Satan is the reason that Jesus has the authority to do what he's doing. And Jesus is saying, you folks have that one seriously wrong. And these are persons who have a state of understanding. They have a belief system that will not be shaken. It will not be shaken. Anybody know anyone like that? Who has a belief structure that will not be shaken? I have a few people in mind. I think there's a place called Westboro Baptist Church that has something like that in mind. And I will take it aside and tell you that one of the things that I have on my particular bucket list is to put on my black cassock, my white surplice, to put a stole around my neck, take a cross like this, get someone to come with me with a candle, get an aspergillium, you know those things where I sling water on people? Part of my bucket list is to go to those persons who are doing this from this particular way of understanding, this particular congregation, and to cast the water upon them and say, I curse you in the name of the Father and the Son.
Oh my God!
Because you will never understand. You, as standing in this position, you are blaspheming the Holy Spirit, and you will never understand. You will never understand. As long as you are continuing to do this sin will never be forgiven. It will never be forgiven. And that's the kind of thing we're talking about here. If we go through the course of our lives and we mess up periodically, it doesn't matter whether, even in that messing up, we at some point belittle the name of God. If we do that, we can still bring ourselves to God. We can turn from our behavior towards God and we can say, Father, forgive me, and the Lord will guarantee your forgiveness. God may not set everything right after you've done that. There may be work to do, but your forgiveness is assured. Unless you are a hard-headed person. Unless. And what's interesting to me too is that here's a new definition of family, isn't it? Jesus is in the place in Capernaum, and his family comes and they say, we need to get him out of there because he's crazy. I know how that feels. Not Jesus. No, I don't know how that feels. But I know how it feels to people that think I'm crazy and need to get me out of there. But here's a new definition of family that we have in this gospel. It's a new understanding of who our families are. The family that Jesus was born into in the Gospel of Mark. By the way, there's no birth narrative in Mark. You remember that it starts and then he comes down to the river, right? So we now know that his mother, who is not named, has children. And in Mark's Gospel, we don't know whether there are any older siblings or not. That's an interesting way of looking at things. But we have a new understanding of family. Family is a hot-button issue. It has been ever since the term was invented. It's a hot-button issue. What is it like to be in a family? What does it mean to have a family? What are family values? What are they? And how do they look in this world? Well, one of the ways that I encourage their looking is that it reflects, family values reflect, first of all, on the simple laws that are given to us in the gospel. And that is, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Do not do to anyone what you don't want done to you. These are the ways of looking at life. This is the beginning of the expression of family values. Out of that, we each form our own family values. What we do here today is a baptism, in which we acknowledge the definition of family is larger than the small. It's larger than the fewer. It's more than the less. It is bigger. And today Caleb is coming to get baptized. He doesn't know it yet. Maybe he does. He's an alert little guy. But he's coming to be baptized, and he's coming to be baptized into a family which is ruled by Jesus Christ, not some king as is espoused in Samuel, by Jesus Christ. And the formative power of the Holy Spirit is alive and well and working today. And each of us, the nuclear family, the family and sponsors around Caleb, will have a duty of care to raise him up the best they can, using the values that they understand and the values that they acknowledge are important to them. But whenever Caleb comes here, he's going to be a part of us and our family. And those are the values that we will bring to this too. Because part of the baptismal covenant is, well, are you going to support these folks in what they intend to do? And we're going to say, yes, we will. If you can't say that, then you're comfortable. It's okay if you don't. But generally speaking, it is our duty to love that little boy, just like we've loved all of the children that come here. Just like we've loved all of the people that come here. Just as we have listened to the Holy Spirit and espouse the value of the Holy Spirit in our lives. So what do you say we baptize that little boy? Will the family and sponsors please stand?